Hey there, it's Steph. If you're new around here, I'm your host, and I am a wellness and nutrition coach who is obsessed with helping millennial women and anyone else who wants to come hang out here with me to learn to nourish their bodies and to develop healthy lifestyle habits that they love. Wellness routines, daily routines, and habits that come from a place of abundance and self-care and work on enriching our lives by caring for our bodies and caring for our minds and hearts. So that's what I'm all about. Thank you for taking the time to come and hang out with us today. This is going to be a short, casual episode, part of March National Nutrition Month, and I want to just take the time to draw your attention to a few reminders about intentional nutrition and about making nourishing meals easier. That's what I really want to focus on, is how can we make nourishing ourselves easier? I think a lot of times we think about nutrition or we think about health and we feel like we have to have it down to a science. We have to have it down to a system, to be calculating something in order for it to be effective. And I really don't think that that's the case. I really do believe that it doesn't have to be complicated to be effective. It can be simple, and you can start making nutrition choices that nourish your body and start making little changes today, right now, with your next meal, with your next move. So that's what today is. A few of those intentional nutrition tips that you could literally dive in and put to work for you in your life right now. I will say, if you hear a little weird sound in the background, my French bulldog Cha-Cha is currently snoring on my lap, and I'm pretty sure it's probably picking that up. So please ignore the snores and get ready for our nutrition tips. The first reminder is that the goal here isn't perfection. It's sustainability. We aren't working on eating a totally perfect diet. We're not working on eating 100% clean whole foods. We're working on eating as many whole plant foods, as many nourishing choices as we can, and in a way that's going to allow us to stick with it. We're working toward eating as many whole plant foods as possible in ways that feel simple, in ways that taste good, in ways that work with your other daily routines, in ways that you can do consistently over and over again in order to allow their benefits to really impact you. So the first reminder is really to just kind of get out of your own head, get out of your own way, and don't think, I have to do this perfectly in order to improve my nutrition. You don't. You need to focus on improvement, focus on nourishment, focus on what can I include. My favorite way to do that is that when we're putting together a meal and we're trying to really pump up the nutrients in it, is to just stop and try asking yourself, how could I add one more thing? How could I add one more nutrient, one more vegetable to dinner? Could I add a fruit to my breakfast or my snack? If I've made a pasta dish, could I put a scoop of beans in it? If I've made a salad, could I add a sprinkle of nuts? Where is there one place at one time that I can pump up the nutrients? How can I add one more? So instead of focusing on how can I make a perfect lunch, we're going to say I'm making the lunch that is convenient, or the lunch that I like, or the lunch that is planned. How can I add one more thing that's going to increase its nutritional value? So that's definitely my first piece of advice. After that comes the idea of thinking outside the box. Weird combinations of food are allowed. I remember when I first started cooking for myself on a routine basis, I always wondered what went together. You know, like I'd think, okay, I have Brussels sprouts. I want to make Brussels sprouts. What goes with Brussels sprouts? Or, okay, I'm going to cook quinoa. What goes with quinoa? And I kind of had this idea in my head that foods were meant to go together. I really don't think that's true. I think different cuisines, different cultures tend to pair things together in certain ways that then become routine. But when you are the chef, you are in charge of the food that you put in your body. You can eat in whatever combinations you want to. You can eat chili for breakfast if that sounds good. You can eat toast for dinner if that sounds good. And you can also pair together whatever foods you have that are accessible to you and that are going to nourish you. So it's okay if you're not like, oh, this isn't a traditional meal, these foods don't usually go together, we're breaking outside that box. Who cares what's supposed to go together? Put together foods that are going to give you nutrients, add in some spices or a condiment or seasonings that you enjoy, that taste good, and call it a day. Call it a done. We'll go back to the beginning there and say, it doesn't have to be complicated to be effective. You don't need to be some sort of 5-star chef in order to cook yourself a meal that is nourishing. Pull out what you have access to. Pull out frozen broccoli from the freezer and fresh peppers from the fridge and cook yourself up some rice and open a can of beans and dump it on a plate with your favorite condiment and call it dinner. And you'll be okay. You'll be nourishing your body. So tip number 1 is kind of not to focus on perfection, but instead to focus on adding one more thing at a time. Tip number 2 there is to think outside the box. So tip number 3 is just a reminder that when it comes to nourishing our body and improving our nutrition, we aren't trying to eat less. We're trying to eat better. So nourishing ourselves is abundant. It's not restrictive. In order to improve our nutrition, for a lot of us, for a long time, not going to speak for everybody, but I know for me, I thought that eating healthier or improving my nutrition was about what I was removing. It was about what I wasn't including. Could it be a calorie reduction? Should I skip oil? Am I cutting sugar? And it was always this mentality of like what to reduce or what to eat less of. And I want to encourage you to flip that around and instead to focus on what we're trying to eat more of, how we're trying to improve our patterns, how we're nourishing ourselves. So kind of along the idea of the adding one more nutrient. It's not necessarily thinking about what we need to reduce, but what we want to increase and what we're going to change the quality of. So it's not that we're going to eat fewer carbohydrates. It's that we're going to make an intentional choice to change the quality of the carbohydrates that we eat, to eat them from whole grains and beans and fruits and vegetables instead of eating them from refined flours and sugars, right? For the most part, for the majority of the time. So we kind of can get out of our own way again and say, it's not about being perfect. It's not about sticking to a typical meal. And it's not about restricting myself. It is, if you see the theme here, it is about encouraging ourselves to eat more of the good stuff, to eat more nutrients. I'll throw in for good measure here at the end. I guess this is tip number 4, that plants have protein. I just want to throw that out there. A lot of times people are concerned about, am I hitting certain protein goals? Am I eating too many carbs? These are just the ones I hear a lot. Or am I relying on high fat foods? I have too much fat in my diet and maybe I need more protein. And culturally, we've done that a little bit too, and our marketing has done that by marketing us protein bars and powders and high protein wraps, right? And obviously, protein is a really important nutrient. We do need to include adequate amounts of protein throughout our days and weeks in order for our body to function properly, for our muscles to grow, for our cells to repair, all that good stuff. But a lot more foods contain high levels of protein than we typically think of. So if you are feeling limited in your food choices by thinking, I have to have this specific protein source in every meal, or I have to make sure I'm hitting those goals every day, it couldn't hurt to do a quick little Google search, something that I love to do, Cha-Cha snorting on my lap, something that I love to do with my one-on-one clients is to kind of break those misconceptions by Googling some of their favorite foods, Googling different plant foods, grains, beans, nuts, even vegetables, and looking at the protein content in them. Not because we have to count or measure the protein in all of our meals, but sometimes it can put us at ease a little bit. It can make nourishing ourselves feel easier by doing a quick Google and saying, wait a second, this pasta that I'm eating, this whole wheat pasta, actually has 8 grams of protein in it. My head was just saying pasta is a carb. When I look at this, it also has a lot of fiber and a lot of protein. So it's a complex carbohydrate with a lot of protein and also, minerals, things like that. So just to kind of challenge your own preconceptions and to challenge your own beliefs So not about just what goes together or what components need to be in a meal, but also the idea that you're getting nutrients from so many different places that we can really focus on an abundance of whole plant foods as a way to not just get protein and carbohydrates and fats, but a way to get all of the micronutrients, all of our vitamins and minerals and antioxidants and other awesome plant compounds. Okay, so I hope that these four tips here, I'll go back again quickly, the idea that we're not working on perfection, we're working on just adding one more good thing at a time. Number 2, that we can think outside the box. Weird combos are okay. You can eat things for different meals than you think is customary. You can eat whatever you want, whenever you want, in an effort to nourish your body. That 3, we aren't trying to eat less, we're trying to eat better. We're looking for more whole foods, more whole grains, not necessarily restricting how much sugar or oil or calories we eat, but instead putting our focus on all of the good stuff we're going to eat and allowing that to balance out naturally. And then remembering that nutrients like protein come from whole plant foods, and they come from all different kinds of plant foods. So it's okay to take the pressure off yourself to have to count, to have to make sure you're hitting targets, and instead to focus on that one word. If you've been hanging out around here, we've been using it a lot lately. We're going to focus on the word nourish and how the choices that we make throughout the day are just with the intention to nourish our body, to give it energy, to give it nutrients from a place of abundance and a place of love. I hope that you find this helpful. Again, I'm a wellness and nutrition coach. This is the kind of work that I do with clients, taking tips like this and then applying them one step at a time to help transform their lives in the context of their actual life, their routines, their preferences, their mindset and history surrounding food. If you ever want to talk to me more about doing this on a one-on-one basis, or see what some of my other offerings, like my monthly membership program, things like that look like, you can just book a discovery call. They're free. We can jump on Zoom for about 20 minutes or phone if you prefer, and we can just talk through what your goals are, what maybe your struggles are surrounding nutrition, and how the things that I offer might be able to help you or might be a good fit. You can find info on that at bewellwithsteph.com/work-with-me. I'll stick it in the show notes. And I would love to hear what you think of these tips or what you find useful or what you're going to try. So you can reach out to me on Instagram at bewellwithsteph. You can always shoot me an email, steph@bewellwithsteph.com. I'm pretty much Be Well with Steph anywhere on social media that you like to hang out. So come and find me, say hi, and tell me how you are going to work on nourishing yourself for the rest of this month and beyond. I'll talk to you guys soon. Be well.